Good day. Today, we will be presenting our topic about feminist art. I am Christian BILBAO and my partner is Abigail V. Malang. First, what is feminist art? According to Group Art Online, feminist art is a work that is rooted in the analysis and commitments of contemporary feminism, and that it contributes to a critique of political, economic, and ideological power relations of contemporary society. It is now a stylistic category, nor simply any art produced by women. Furthermore, the feminist art movement is a category of art associated with the late 1960s and 1970s. Feminist movement. It highlights the societal and political differences women experience within their lives. The hopeful gain from this form of art is to bring a positive understanding to changes in the world, in hope to lead to equality or liberation. It served as an innovative driving force towards expanding the definition of art through the incorporation of new media and new perspective. Although feminist art is fundamentally any field that strives towards equality among the genders, it is not static. It is a constantly changing project that itself constantly shaped and remodeled in relation to the living process of women's struggles. It is not a platform, but rather a dynamic and self-critical response. This is to present to you a brief history of the feminist art movement. For the 19th centuries, the first wave of feminist art was established. The women against the right to vote in America, thus a liberalization spread throughout the world. In this time, the majority of women made artwork did not portray feminist content in the sense that it neither addressed nor criticized the conditions that women have historically faced. 1960s. In this time, in order to gain recognition, many female artists struggled to degender their work in order to compete in the dominantly male world. In 1963, Yayoi Kusama created Oven Pan. This is the artwork that Yayoi Kusama created that is entitled as Oven Pan. This is an early feminist example of female artists finding ways to break from the traditional role of women in society. In description, in having the lumps made from the same color and materials as the metal pan completely takes away the pan's functionality and, in a metaphorical sense, its association with women. In 1964, Yoko Ono's cut-piece performance art began. The artist sat alone, dressed in her best suit with a pair of scissors in front of her. The audience has been instructed that they could take turns approaching her and use the scissors to cut off a small piece of her clothing, which was theirs to keep. This performance gained popularity in feminist artwork as a form of critical analysis on societal values on gender. Ono debuted cut piece in Kyoto in 1964 and has since reprised it in Tokyo, New York, London, and most recently Paris in 2003. Next is 1970s. In 1972, Beth Edelson created the artwork entitled Some Living American Women Artists. This is the artwork made by Mary Beth Edelson that is appropriated with Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper with the heads of notable women artists collaged over the heads of Christ and his apostles. This became one of the most iconic images of the feminist art movement. In 1975, Barbara Deming founded Money for Women Fund to support the work of feminist artists. Deming helped administer the fund with support from artist Mary Meigs. In 1979, Judy Chicago's The Dinner Party is created. This is a dinner party created by Judy Chicago. It is widely regarded as the first epic feminist artwork, emphasizes this idea of a newfound female empowerment through the use of turning a dinner table, an association to the traditional female role, into an equilateral triangle. 1980s. In 1984, the organization built by Barbara Deming was renamed as the Barbara Deming Memorial Fund, and today the foundation is the oldest ongoing feminist granting agency which gives encouragement and grants to individual feminists in the arts. 1985 is the birth of guerrilla girls who devoted their time to fighting sexism and racism in the art world throughout the use of protests, posters, artwork, and public speaking. They introduced a bolder, more in your face identity and both captured attention expose and expose sexism. Next is 1990s. In 1996, Liana's My Boyfriend Came Back from the War utilized hypertext and digital images to create a non-linear narrative experience about gender, war, and trauma. In 1997, Victoria Vesna's bodies used virtual reality media such as 3D modeling and VRML to satirize the commodification of the body in digital culture. In 1999, Prema Murti's Bindi Girl combined performance art with streaming video live chat and each website to interrogate gender, colonialism, and online consumerism.
Good day, I'm Abigail V. Malang and my partner Krisha Bilbao discuss about how feminist art came to be and who are the founders. Now, let me talk about some of the most influential artists that works with this style using different mediums. The first artist that I will present is George O'Keeffe. She is known for her paintings of enlarged flowers, New York skyscrapers, and New Mexico landscape. She really wasn't part of any feminist art movement and disliked herself being called a woman artist, as the work she created was already there before the feminist movement was truly recognized. Also, she wanted to be seen equal to men. For her works, she didn't want to point out a message, but introduce a sensual and feminist imagery to art itself. It is seen in one of her most famous paintings, Black Iris III. This painting had a lot of controversy, even though it was a simple flower painting with enhanced details, a specialty of hers, as art historians depicted it as a female body part due to how the petals were created and the color combinations on the upper and lower part. Next, we dive into a famous artist and feminist art movement that used a different medium and was influential in bringing the idea of feminism into art during the postmodern movement. She is Barbara Kruger, an American conceptual artist and collagist who graduated as a graphic designer at New York City's Parsons School of Design. It is where her love for photography developed when she met photographers Diane Arbus and Marvin Israel. Photography wasn't her first love because she started out from soft sculpture and painting. It was evident in her most notable works of large-scale images that had appropriate punchy graphics and catchy slogans, which conveyed her ideas on power, identity, and sexuality. One important feature of her work that you will notice is the prominent use of pronouns like you, your, I, we, and they, as she is not forcing a message on her viewer, but it pushes them to address their own opinion. It is seen in her work entitled We Don't Need Another Hero, which shows the one-sidedness of gender issues wherein the youth is forced to conform with it, wherein individualism and change doesn't become okay with the society. She tells the youth here that it's okay to be yourself through the slogan and colors, as seen in the examples on the presentation. Your body is a battleground, highlighted by the color red with a picture of an x-ray of a woman and a normal black and white picture of a woman. Lastly, to artists who experienced personally what she was portraying with her art, leading to her sadly eventual death at a young age. Anya Mendieta was a Cuban-American artist known for her performances, videos, and sculptures. She was married to a fellow minimalist sculptor, Carl Andre. Her performance art was controversial due to it dealing with delicate subjects such as violence against women, sexual assault, and the notion of female beauty. In one of her most notable performances, titled Body Tracks, as seen in the presentation, it could be interpreted as her silent political protest against violence inflicted upon women especially in that era. It was interpreted at ease because she just left the gallery space after imprinting her hands on white paper using animal blood and some parapaint, similar to a ritual. She died on September 8, 1985, after falling from the 33rd building floor, without any indication if it was accidental or a murder by her husband, even though he was acquitted by the police on that time. So, what does feminist art or movement look like today? Before, feminist art was seen as something that would challenge the dominance of men in both art and society, so that equality for women artists would be attained and assumptions about womanhood would be put into an end. Now, in the 21st century, feminist artists focus on shaping their individual concerns about a certain ideal rather than always agreeing to the general feminist message, which is not correct most of the time. First painting is The Darkytown Rebellion by Kara Walker. She is an African American artist known for her use of silhouettes. As she says, the silhouette says a lot with very little information, but that's also what the stereotype does. It is her way of saying that people should change their views through a simple but powerful art. She differs from what feminist art is typically known by people by tackling subjects of race and general violence, as she aims to rewrite history in order to truly understand being a person in that time because she wants to recognize herself within her art. It is also what she wants her viewer to develop when studying her artwork, as the black silhouettes with the light background makes your creativity and imagination go wild and free to really put you into that place of the story that is brought by the silhouette image. Next is Combing Her Hair, created by Shani Rice James, a Welsh artist. As she says, the female becomes part of the decoration, unable to be on the world stage, she turns inward and obsesses about her interior space. This quote about this painting is all about the pressure of being a woman, and she really puts into perspective with a more sinister and claustrophobic feel, which is seen in her use of colors, lines, and shapes that in the sample, wherein she uses dark colors, messy lines, no evident form shape, as she shows what the woman becomes with the expectations of femininity and domestic life that she doesn't have time to focus on herself. Lastly is Carlin Walker with her work titled Study for Making Fish Cakes Late Afternoon, created in the year 2019. She is one of Britain's best painters as she highlights the unseen jobs performed by a woman, usually washing the dishes, cooking a meal, sweeping the floor, and mopping the floor. As she wants people to view the idea of femininity and consider them the heroine of the day. She differs from others as there is a highlight and focus through colors in order to follow through the message, a moment when domestic life becomes a visual feast, using a dark background with the blue and the black window and the prominent use of the yellow colors to really highlight that a woman does the job so that the household is kept intact. So that's all, and thank you for our listening about our lecture on feminist art movement. I hope that you learned a lot, and thank you once again for joining us.